Films are made up of sequences, scenes, and shots. But long before the invention of the movie camera, master painters were already solving the same exact visual problems that modern cinematographers face nowadays. We're going to be breaking down the 9 core principles of fine art and how the world's greatest filmmakers use them to control exactly where you look and what you feel. Grab your brushes, let's begin. In fine art, patterns create rhythm. It sets a visual baseline. Establishing a rigid visual pattern lets a director instantly communicate order or control. Breaking that pattern tells the audience everything they need to know. Take a look at this frame from The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Notice how the cinematographer John Alcott uses the hexagonal patterned carpet to make the space feel disorienting or endless, almost symbolic of the claustrophobic and maze-like trap that is the Overlook Hotel. Alternatively, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, also directed by Stanley Kubrick, the symmetrical pattern on the ship is used to make the viewer feel a sense of awe and mystery that the cinematographer Jeffrey Unsworth continues throughout the rest of the film. Contrast is the friction of an image, whether it's high tonal contrast between blinding light and deep shadows, or color contrast between warm and cool tones. It forces the eye to recognize dualities. In the second season of Squid Game, the cinematographer Kim Ji-young leans heavily on the contrast in both color and lighting shining on the salesman's face. This visual separation directly mirrors the internal conflict of the recruiter, given the unpredictable nature of Russian roulette. As much as he wants to show off his confidence in the game, there is still a side of him that's afraid of the inevitable outcome. We see a completely different use of contrast in La La Land, directed by Damien Chazelle, where the filmmakers use the contrasting bright colors of Mia and Sebastian's attire with the dark aesthetic of the night to achieve a dreamlike fantasy that briefly defies their harsh modern reality. Emphasis is about hierarchy. A painting doesn't have a lens to pull focus, so artists rely on lighting, scale, or isolation to tell the viewer, look right here. In this shot from Catch Me If You Can, despite how busy the environment is, our eyes instantly lock onto Tom Hanks' character, Carl Henratty. This is because the cinematographer uses both spotlighting and color contrast to emphasize not only the character, but the spontaneousness of the call.
Hello.
Orson Welles' Citizen Kane handles emphasis differently, through deep focus or deep depth of field, meaning that the foreground, middle ground, and background are all equally in focus or emphasized. This human-like perspective allowed for realism and subjectivity in a scene meant to illustrate young Kane's powerlessness. An imbalanced image makes the human brain inherently uneasy. Cinematographers manipulate this psychological quirk constantly, choosing between stable symmetry or tense asymmetry. No one applies balance and symmetry to film quite like Wes Anderson. Let's observe the absolute symmetry here in the Grand Budapest Hotel. This formal balance gives the scene a nostalgic and whimsical atmosphere that acts as a feeling of deliberate control in a tragic and disastrous world. But notice how A Clockwork Orange intentionally throws balance out of the window. By placing the character far frame right with nothing but dead negative space on the left, we instantly feel Alex's isolation and declining mental state. Scale establishes power. In fine art, manipulating the proportions of a figure instantly communicates their status in the world. In Blade Runner 2049, the cinematographer uses an ultra-wide lens to minimize Agent K against the endless abyss. The sheer scale makes him look completely powerless. We flip that concept on its head with Pulp Fiction. Here, Tarantino's trademark low camera trank angle, combined with the dark and menacing figures of Vincent and Jules, forces the audience to look up at these characters, establishing absolute dominance. Harmony is visual comfort. It's achieved when elements in a framework work together rather than competing. The visual palette of Fantastic Mr. Fox is a masterclass in harmony. The soft lighting matches the autumnal and warm colors, wrapping the audience in a safe, predictable world. Even in a tragic scene, Toy Story 3 uses visual harmony to convey a sense of peaceful acceptance and bittersweet nostalgia that both Andy and the audience who grew up on these characters feel. In a painting, movement is an illusion. The artist uses leading lines to trick your eyes into traveling across the canvas. Cinema adds literal motion. Watch how your eye moves across this shot from Goodfellas. The camera tracks Henry and Janice through the Copacabana, while the geometry of the set pulls your gaze deeper into the background. In the Blair Witch Project, movement isn't just kinetic, it's narrative. The flow of the camera movement mirrors the realism of real-world found footage. This grounded perspective makes the horrors of the film feel even more authentic. Variety is the spark that keeps it interesting. Too much unity creates boredom. Master filmmakers know how to inject a sudden burst of visual variety to jolt the audience awake. Look at Everything Everywhere All at Once and how they introduce variety. The film has been mostly static and predictable, but suddenly, the cinematographer introduces Evelyn's first official multiversal jump to signal a shift. This balance between unity and variety is what makes Coco feel so alive. The filmmakers vary the textures, lighting, color, and scale of the environment to make sure every single moment feels distinct, yet part of a whole. Ultimately, cinematography isn't about just the technical settings like ISO or f-stops. It's about composition. It's about taking the timeless tools of fine art and adapting them to a moving canvas. The next time you watch a film, don't just watch the story. Look at the frame. What principles are they using to control your eyes? Let me know your favorite examples in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and as always, keep your composure. See you next time.